Picture this. Somewhere out in the distant Kepler 442 system, 12 million crystalline beings called the Zilani are living their peaceful lives when space decides to throw them the worst curveball imaginable. An asteroid swarm is heading straight for their world, and we're not talking about a few pebbles here. These are massive chunks of rock and metal, some bigger than entire cities, racing through space at speeds that would make a bullet look like it's standing still. The Zilani aren't warriors or space marines. They're more like living crystals, beautiful and delicate, who've spent centuries perfecting art and music. Their cities look like something out of fairy tale, with towers that sing in the wind and buildings that shimmer with rainbow colors. These folks have never hurt anyone in their entire existence. They mine asteroids for pretty gems and rare metals, trade peacefully with neighbors, and their biggest worry used to be whether their crystal gardens would bloom on time. But now death is coming for them in the form of space rocks moving faster than anything should move, and their little deflector shields are about as useful as an umbrella in a hurricane. The Zilani's top scientists run the numbers over and over, hoping they made a mistake somewhere. They didn't. In less than 24 hours, their entire world is going to get turned into cosmic gravel. So they do what anyone would do when facing extinction. They send out the biggest, loudest distress call in galactic history. Picture every radio, every communication ray, every emergency beacon. They have all screaming the same message across the galaxy. Help us. Please. Anyone. We're going to die. And the galaxy hears them. Oh, boy, does it hear them. The message reaches every major civilization, every spacefaring species, every government and corporation with ships capable of making the journey. For a few brief moments, the Zilani allow themselves to hope. Surely someone will come. Surely the great galactic community won't just let 12 million innocent people die. The response comes swift and brutal. Silence. Well, not complete silence. The responses trickle in, but they might as well be slaps in the face. The Vorthack, those cold-blooded lizard people who think they're the smartest species in the galaxy, run their precious calculations through their supercomputers. 73% chance of death, they announce. Unacceptable risk parameters. Their message reads in that emotionless way of theirs, regret inability to assist. They don't sound like they regret anything. The mighty Calaxian Empire, with their golden fleets and endless pride, takes exactly 30 seconds to review the situation. Their response is even colder. Economic analysis indicates insufficient return on investment. Colony holds no strategic value. Request denied. 12 million lives, and they're worried about profit margins. Even the Centauri Federation, usually the good guys of the galaxy, the ones who send aid ships and medical supplies, even they back away. Radiation levels in target system exceed safe parameters for Centauri physiology. Comes their apologetic but final message. Deeply regret circumstances prevent assistance. At least they sound sorry about it. One by one, every advanced civilization finds their excuse. The Aquatic Collective says their ships can't handle the gravity wells. The hive mind claims their drones would malfunction in the electromagnetic storms. The Peaceful Traders Union says they don't have any ships in the area, which everyone knows is nonsense because they have ships everywhere. It's like watching neighbors close their curtains when they see trouble coming. Every single species that preaches about galactic unity and interstellar cooperation suddenly develops selective hearing when 12 million lives hang in the balance. The hours tick by, and with each passing moment, the Zilani's hope dies a little more. Their crystal voices, which once sang beautiful harmonies across the cosmos, now crack with despair. Their power systems begin failing under the strain of broadcasting their pleas. The asteroid swarm gets closer, and the mathematical certainty of their doom becomes undeniable. The younger Zilani ask their elders why no one will help them. The elders have no answers. They've lived for centuries believing in the goodness of the galactic community, in the idea that civilized species look out for each other. Now they're learning the harsh truth. When push comes to shove, when helping means risking your own neck, civilization has a habit of looking the other way. As their final hours approach, the Zilani stop begging. They begin recording messages for whoever might find their ruins someday, hoping someone will remember that they existed, that they mattered, that they were more than just another extinct species in the galaxy's long and bloody history. But the galaxy, it seems, has already forgotten them. Captain James Mitchell is exactly the kind of guy you want in charge when everything goes sideways. Picture a man in his 50s, gray creeping into his brown hair, sitting in a captain's chair that's seen better days. The coffee stains tell a story of countless late nights, keeping watch over his crew and passengers. This isn't some fancy military vessel we're talking about here. The Resilient is a colony ship built for the long haul, carrying families and supplies to new worlds. Mitchell's been flying her for 12 years, and she's become more like home than any planet he's ever lived on. When that weak distress signal from the Zilani comes crackling through their communications array, Mitchell is doing what he always does during his evening shift, sipping lukewarm coffee and reading reports. The signal is so faint that most ships would have missed it entirely, but their communications officer, Lisa Chun, has ears like a hawk and equipment she's tweaked beyond manufacturer specifications. "Captain," Lisa calls out, her voice cutting through the quiet hum of the bridge. "I'm picking up something weird. It's a distress call, but it's really far out. Kepler 442 system." Mitchell sets down his coffee mug, the one his daughter gave him with "World's okayest dad" printed on the side. "Let me hear it." The message that fills the bridge is heartbreaking. Those crystalline voices, cracking with desperation, pleading for anyone to help them. 12 million souls facing extinction, and you can hear the fear in every transmitted word. Mitchell's crew starts gathering around without being called. That's just how things work on human ships. When trouble calls, people show up. Tom Bradley, the navigator, is the first to start running numbers. He's a quiet guy from Nebraska who joined the colony service because he wanted to see the stars. Now he's calculating jump coordinates to a system that most species consider a death trap. "Sir, if we push the engines hard, we can make it there in about 16 hours. But—" He pauses, looking at his screen like it personally offended him. The radiation in that system would cook most alien species in minutes. And those gravitational anomalies from the pulsar nearby, they could tear us apart. Chief Engineer Dan Rodriguez is already pulling up engine diagnostics before anyone asks him to. Dan's one of those guys who talks to machines like they're old friends, and somehow they always seem to listen. He's originally from Houston, spent 15 years working on deep space freighters before joining the colony service. "The good news is our engines are running sweet," he says, his fingers dancing across holographic displays. "The bad news is we're talking about pushing them way past redline specs." Dr. Patricia Williams, their chief medical officer, looks up from her tablet where she's been researching Zilani physiology. "I've got medical records from their last trade mission. Their biology is nothing like ours. If we're going to help them, I'll need to synthesize completely new medical supplies during the journey." Lieutenant Jake Thompson, head of their small security detail, studies a tactical readout. He's a former Navy man who signed up for colony protection duty, thinking it would be peaceful. Those asteroids are moving at relativistic speeds. Getting close enough to help means flying through a shooting gallery where each bullet is the size of Manhattan. Mitchell listens to it all, watching his crew volunteer for what amounts to a suicide mission without anyone actually saying the word suicide. The ship's computer helpfully displays their survival odds in red numbers that seem to mock them. 31% chance of making it back home. Any other species in the galaxy would look at those numbers and walk away. The Vorthack would say it's mathematically unsound. The Calaxians would call it wasteful. The Centauri would express their regrets and move on to safer missions. But here's the thing about humans that drives the rest of the galaxy absolutely crazy. When faced with impossible odds and certain death, they don't see statistics. They see 12 million people who need help. And they see the fact that they're the only ones close enough to try. Mitchell stands up from his coffee-stained chair, looking around at his crew. These aren't super soldiers or space marines. Lisa's got 2 kids back on Earth Colony 7. Tom sends half his pay home to his parents' farm. Dan's got a wife who worries every time he takes a dangerous assignment. Patricia volunteers at refugee centers during shore leave. Jake coaches kids soccer when he's planetside. They're just ordinary people who've somehow found themselves in an extraordinary situation. "All right, people," Mitchell says, his voice steady and calm. We're the only ship close enough to make a difference. I won't lie to you about the risks, but I also won't lie about what's at stake. 12 million people are going to die if we don't try. He pauses, looking each crew member in the eye. Anyone who wants to transfer to an escape pod and wait for pickup, speak up now. No judgment, no questions asked. Nobody moves. Nobody even considers it. Lisa, start broadcasting our intentions to Galactic Command. Tom, plot our jump. Dan, I want those engines ready for the ride of their lives. Mitchell settles back into his chair, picking up his coffee mug again. Let's go save some lives. Dan Rodriguez grins as he heads for the engine room, muttering just loud enough for everyone to hear. Another day at the office for the crazy humans. That nickname isn't an insult anymore. It's become a badge of honor. The moment the Resilient drops out of hyperspace into the Kepler 442 system, every alarm on the ship starts screaming like the universe is trying to kill them, which, honestly, it pretty much is. This isn't your average star system where you can cruise around sightseeing. This is what happens when space decides to throw everything it's got at you all at once. Picture the most violent thunderstorm you've ever seen, then multiply it by about 1 million and set it in the vacuum of space. Solar flares the size of Earth's moon come shooting out from the local star, each one carrying enough energy to fry entire planets. The ship's shields, which are supposed to protect them from space debris and minor radiation, start glowing white-hot as they try to handle forces they were never designed for. Shield strength down to 60% and falling fast. Lisa calls out from her station, her voice tight with concentration. She's got her hands dancing across 3 different control panels, trying to reroute power faster than the flares can drain it. Sweat beads on her forehead as another massive solar eruption washes over them. But the solar flares are just the opening act. The real nightmare is the pulsar lurking nearby like some cosmic horror show. For those who don't know, a pulsar is basically a dead star that's decided to become the galaxy's most dangerous lighthouse. It spins around multiple times per second, shooting out beams of radiation and gravitational waves that can literally bend space and time. Tom Bradley, hunched over his navigation console, watches his instruments go completely insane. Captain, the gravitational shears are off the charts. It's like trying to navigate through a washing machine during an earthquake. His hands move constantly across the controls, making tiny adjustments that keep them from getting torn apart by forces that could crumple their ship like a paper ball. The Resilient groans and shudders under the assault. Hull plates that have weathered countless journeys through normal space start buckling and warping. You can actually hear the metal screaming as gravitational waves stretch and compress the ship's structure. In the engineering section, Dan Rodriguez is working miracles, rerouting power, reinforcing weak points, and basically holding the ship together through sheer stubbornness and engineering genius. Hull integrity at 75%, he reports over the intercom, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. She's holding together, but I wouldn't want to stay here for a family vacation. The radiation levels are so high that if any other species tried this, they'd be dead within minutes. The Centauri weren't lying when they said this system would kill them. Even humans, who come from a world that most aliens consider a death trap, are pushing their limits here. Dr. Patricia Williams is monitoring everyone's exposure levels, making sure they don't cook from the inside out. But here's the thing about humans that makes them different from every other species in the galaxy. When things get tough, when the odds are impossible, when any sane person would turn around and go home, humans dig in their heels and get to work. The crew doesn't panic or complain or ask why they're risking their lives for strangers. They just focus on the job at hand. Down on the planet's surface, the Zilani have given up hope. Their crystal cities are beautiful but fragile, and they know that when those asteroids hit, everything they built over centuries will be reduced to glittering dust. Their leaders are gathered in what amounts to their final council meeting, recording messages for anyone who might find their ruin someday. That's when their long-range sensors pick up something impossible. A ship's signature, dropping out of hyperspace right into the middle of their doomed system. At first, they think their equipment is malfunctioning. No one would be crazy enough to fly into this radiation-soaked nightmare, especially not with massive asteroids bearing down on them. But the signature is real, and it's getting stronger. A single vessel, its hull already glowing from radiation exposure, limping through the solar storms like some wounded but determined animal. The Zolani's crystalline forms resonate with shock as they realize what they're seeing. Elder Kithra, leader of their High Council, stares at the readings with what passes for disbelief among her species. "Impossible," she whispers, her voice creating soft musical tones. Someone has actually come. The ship's design is unfamiliar to them, built with a heavy plating and robust engineering that screams Deathworlder technology. Only species from the most dangerous planets build ships like this, vessels designed to survive in conditions that would destroy more delicate craft. Then Mitchell's voice cuts through the static, transmitted on emergency frequencies despite the electromagnetic chaos around them. "This is Captain James Mitchell of the Earth vessel Resilient. We received your distress call. Starting evacuation procedures now." The words hit the Zolani Council like a physical blow. Earth, the humans, those legendary Deathworlders from the planet that kills everything, where the weather can vaporize you and the local wildlife considers you a light snack. The species that every other civilization whispers about, the ones who look at impossible odds and say, "Hold my beer." Kithra's crystalline body actually trembles as the implications sink in. When the Vordak calculated the odds and walked away, when the Calaxians deemed them unprofitable, when the Centauri Federation cited safety concerns, when literally every advanced civilization in the galaxy found reasons to abandon them, these humans from their nightmare world just showed up. "They came," she breathes, her voice carrying harmonics of wonder and desperate hope. When no one else would, the humans actually came. The Resilient continues its approach, shields flickering, hull plates stressed beyond their design limits, but still coming, still determined to help 12 million strangers they've never met, people who can't offer them anything except gratitude. That's when the Zolani truly understand what it means to encounter humanity in the wild. What happens next is the most beautifully insane display of human stubbornness the galaxy has ever witnessed. See, when other species encounter problem, they run calculations, hold meetings, and find logical reasons why something can't be done. When humans encounter problem, they roll up their sleeves and ask, "How do we make this work anyway?" The first issue becomes obvious real quick. The Resilience tractor beams, designed for moving cargo containers and small debris, are about as useful against city-sized asteroids as a garden hose against a forest fire. These space rocks are massive, moving at speeds that defy common sense, and there's just too many of them. Most species would look at this problem and declare it unsolvable. The humans, they get creative in ways that would make other civilizations question their sanity. "Tom, bring us alongside that big one," Mitchell orders, pointing at an asteroid roughly the size of downtown Chicago. "Dan, prep the emergency cables." Dan Rodriguez stares at his captain like he's lost his mind. "Sir, you want to physically attach us to a relativistic asteroid and try to push it with our engines?" "That's exactly what I want. That's going to tear our hull apart." Mitchell nods. "Probably. Do it anyway." What follows is something that no ship designer ever intended their vessel to do. The Resilient extends heavy-duty cables, the kind normally used for emergency towing of disabled ships, and physically latches onto asteroids. Then they fire their main engines, using their entire ship as a giant tugboat to nudge these cosmic bullets off their collision course. The first attempt nearly kills them all. The instant their engines engage, the stress on the hull is tremendous. Metal screams, joints buckle, and warning lights flash across every console on the bridge. But the asteroid's trajectory shifts just enough to miss the main Zolani population center. "It worked," Tom breathes, watching his calculations update. Insane, but it worked. They do it again, and again. Each time, the ship takes more damage, but each time, they save another chunk of the Zolani population from certain death. Meanwhile, down on the planet, a different kind of miracle is happening. Some Zolani settlements are built into crystal formations so delicate that moving them quickly would shatter them like glass ornaments. Their people are literally too fragile to evacuate using normal methods. Enter the human Marines. Lieutenant Jake Thompson and his small security team weren't trained for this. Their colony protection, meant to handle pirates or wild animals, not conduct rescue operations through lethal radiation. But when 12 million lives hang in the balance, job descriptions become suggestions. These Marines, wearing power armor that's already straining to filter out radiation that would liquefy most organic life, go building to building, carrying Zilani civilians one by one to the evacuation shuttles. Picture a 200-pound human in bulky armor, cradling a being that looks like living crystal art, trudging through radiation storms that make nuclear waste look like a mild sunburn. The Zilani children, if you can call them that, weigh almost nothing but are impossibly delicate. One wrong step, one moment of clumsiness, and these beautiful beings would shatter. But the Marines handle them like they're carrying newborn babies, speaking in soft voices even though the Zilani can't understand English. Just try and keep them calm. Back on the ship, Dr. Patricia Williams is performing her own kind of miracle. She's working around the clock in the medical bay, synthesizing medicines and treatments for a completely alien biology. The Zilani's crystalline physiology is nothing like human biology. Their blood is more like liquid light. Their organs resonate at frequencies like a shattered glass, and they process nutrients in ways that Earth biology textbooks never covered. But Patricia doesn't give up. She's running simulations, testing compounds, and somehow creating medical treatments for a species she'd never seen before 3 days ago. When some Zilani start suffering from shock and trauma, she figures out how to adapt human psychological techniques to help beings whose minds work completely differently from ours. Commander Robert Williams, no relation to Doctor, is leading shuttle runs that shouldn't be possible to survive. Picture trying to fly a school bus through a meteor shower, where each meteor is the size of a skyscraper and moving faster than bullets. That's basically what Bob and his pilots are doing, over and over again. His shuttles are getting beaten up worse than the main ship. Hull plating is peeling off. Engines are running on backup power, and the navigation systems keep getting scrambled by electromagnetic interference. But somehow, they keep making it through. The worst part comes in the final 30 minutes. With most of the population evacuated, they discover that several thousand Zilani are trapped in the deepest mining tunnels, too far down for normal rescue operations. These mines go kilometers into the planet's crust, and the tunnel systems are too narrow for shuttles. So the humans do what humans do. They go in on foot. As the first asteroid fragments start hitting the planet's surface, creating earthquakes and sending shockwaves through ground, human rescue teams are rappelling into mining shafts with handheld equipment, pulling survivors out one by one while the world literally shakes apart around them. The Resilient is held together by emergency welds, backup systems, and sheer determination at this point. Half her hull plating is gone. Her main engines are running on prayers, and the radiation exposure would kill most species hours ago. But they don't stop. They just keep working, keep saving lives, keep doing the impossible because someone has to. The final shuttle carrying the last group of Zilani survivors docks with the Resilient just as another massive asteroid fragment slams into the planet below. The impact sends shock waves through space that make the already damaged ship shudder like a leaf in a hurricane. But they made it. Somehow, against all odds and logic. They actually made it. Captain Mitchell stands on the bridge surveying what's left of his ship, and honestly, it's a miracle she's still in one piece. The Resilient looks like she went 12 rounds with an angry planet and lost badly. Hull breaches pepper her exterior like bullet holes, sealed with emergency patches that are basically the space equivalent of Band-Aids. Her once proud hull plating is twisted, melted in some places, completely missing in others. The main engines are held together by emergency welds, and what Dan Rodriguez swears is the power of positive thinking. The crew isn't in much better shape. Half of them are glowing faintly from radiation exposure, their dosimeters clicking like angry insects. Dr. Patricia Williams has been popping anti-radiation meds like candy and administering treatments around the clock. Lieutenant Jake Thompson and his Marines look like they've been through a blender, their power armor scarred and dented from carrying fragile Zilani through conditions that would kill most life forms instantly. But here's the thing that matters. Every single Zilani life was saved. 12 million souls who were supposed to become cosmic dust are now safe aboard human vessels. The elderly ones who thought they'd die in the crystal gardens where they were born. The young ones who hadn't even learned to sing properly yet. The miners who were trapped kilometers underground. The artists, the teachers, the families, the dreamers, all of them. Elder Kithara, the Zilani leader, stands in the Resilience main cargo bay surrounded by her people. Her crystalline form is trembling, not from fear this time, but from something she's never felt before. Complete, overwhelming gratitude toward a species she barely knew existed a week ago. Around her, thousands of Zilani are creating a harmony unlike anything ever heard before. It's their song of thanksgiving, and it's so beautiful that human crew members find themselves crying without knowing why. She approaches Captain Mitchell, who's limping slightly from a fall he took during one of the asteroid impacts. The translator she carries struggles with her words because there's no human equivalent for what she's trying to say. Finally, she settles on something simple. You saved us when no one else would. Why? Mitchell, exhausted and radiation sick, just shrugs in that perfectly human way. Because you needed help. It's that simple. No grand speeches about galactic unity or moral obligations. No political calculations or economic benefits. Just because they needed help, and humans were the only ones willing to give it. Word of what happened spreads across the galaxy faster than hyperspace communication networks can carry it. At first, other species don't believe the reports. Surely no one was crazy enough to fly into the Kepler for 42 system during an asteroid bombardment. Surely the humans didn't really save 12 million people with a single colony ship that was falling apart. But the evidence is overwhelming. Sensor recordings from distant monitoring stations show the whole thing. The Resilient limping into that hellscape of the system. The insane asteroid nudging maneuvers that should have killed them all. The countless shuttle runs through impossible conditions. The final exodus with millions of refugees packed into every available space. The Vort hack, who calculated the mission had only a 31% survival rate, run new calculations based on human performance data. Their computers crash trying to process the variables. How do you factor in stubbornness? How do you calculate the probability of success when logic says it's impossible, but humans do it anyway? The Calaxian Empire, which dismissed the rescue as unprofitable, suddenly realizes that 12 million grateful Zilani represent a significant political and economic force. But it's too late. The Zilani aren't interested in forming alliances with people who abandoned them. The Centauri Federation sends official apologies and offers of assistance now that the danger has passed. The Zilani leadership politely declines. They remember who showed up when it mattered. Within weeks, the Zilani begin construction of their new home on a planet the humans helped them find. They could have named it anything. New Chrysalis, maybe, or Haven, or Second Chance. Instead, they name it New Terra, after the impossible world that produces impossible people who do impossible things. The decision sends ripples through galactic society. Every species knows what Terra represents. It's the death world, the planet of infinite dangers where evolution went insane and produced creatures tough enough to survive anything. By naming their new home after Earth, the Zilani are making a statement that resonates across the stars. Other civilizations finally understand what it means when humans are called Deathworlders. It's not just because they come from a planet that kills everything. It's not just because they're tough or adaptable or hard to scare. It's because when death comes calling, when extinction arrives at your door, when the universe itself seems determined to wipe you out, humans are the ones who show up and plant themselves between you and oblivion. They don't calculate odds. They don't weigh costs and benefits. They don't form committees or hold debates. They just show up, roll up their sleeves, and get to work saving lives. The galaxy has learned something important. There are civilizations that will help you when it's convenient, allies who will stand with you when it's profitable, and friends who will support you when it's safe. And then there are humans who will fly through hell itself just because you ask for help. That makes all the difference in the universe.